Welcome back, VA users. In today's session, we are going to see how to import the data using Excel import utility into the VA system. Now, this utility is very important because there are cases when you just need to import the data. Let's say if you are in a manufacturing industry, you just need to import the capacity every month. You need to import your number of hours for the SKFs. There are various cases when you need to import some data. There might be a possibility you need to import some master data somewhere into the system. So this utility is very useful. So in this video we are going to cover how we can utilize the Excel import utility. To utilize the Excel import utility, what we need to do is to have the template first. And once the template is ready, thereafter we would be able to import that Excel import template into the VA system. Now the question is, how do we get the Excel import templates from the system, or how we can prepare these Excel import templates? As I mentioned that in terms of the chart of account, there is a fixed file for the chart of account that is known as accounting US CSV that is available into the installation directory. But when you want to import some transactional data or you want to import some master data into the VA system, in those cases, we need to prepare the Excel file. Now, the Excel file can be prepared in two ways. First is to export the Excel file, and thereafter we'll check and we'll update that Excel file, in whichever the column is needed, we'll keep those columns and rest of the columns we'll remove. Onto the other side, it is to create the Excel file manually. In such a case, what you need to do, all the important columns needs to be entered into the Excel, and thereafter we would be able to enter the data. So these are the two ways we would be able to generate the Excel import template. Once the Excel import template is ready, thereafter we need to do the mapping into the VA system. There is a utility called Excel import utility. If it is not installed at your instances, then you would be able to install that. Now let's move on to the system and we'll see how we can create the Excel import template, or we can see how we can create the template manually. Okay, and thereafter we'll import some data. So I'm at my login screen and I'm logged in with my ABC admin. Okay, so let's take one of the example. Let's say I want to import the payment terms. Okay, so if I want to import the payment terms, I would go to the payment term window. Here I have some payment term already available, but I just want to import few more. So the one way, as I have mentioned, that you would be able to export in Excel from the VA system, and thereafter you would be able to utilize that Excel. So this is the button, that is the report, or from the shortcut you press Alt R, you would be able to use that shortcut key and click on this. As a result of that, you would be able to see the payment term. Okay, once the payment term is there, then you would be able to export it into the CSV, or you would be able to. So I have exported it into the CSV. Once it is done, thereafter I would be able to open my Excel. So let me go to the downloads into the system. So I do have this file that was imported. Now you would be able to see here all the relevant data that is needed somewhere within the system. You would be able to see at this place. Okay. Now here one of the important thing is I don't want to enter, or you need not to enter the tenant or the organization as in column. Okay. So you would be able to create this, or whatever the minimum columns are needed, you would be able to keep those columns, and thereafter you would be able to import. Now I have 3 records, so all these 3 records gets exported by the system. Now I want to generate some, I just want to create some more records. So let's say I want to create net 60 days. Then my name is also net 60 days. My description is also net 60 days. And my net days are 60. and thereafter nothing is required. Okay, thereafter what I can do is next 90 days, so I will enter here 90 days, and then I would be able to enter here 90 days, description as 90 days, net days is 90 days, and rest is all well. If you want to provide the discount, then it is okay. I don't want to provide the discount here. So my file is prepared, so let me make it full so that I would be able to understand. So my file is prepared, so let's move on to the system, and since it is exported into the CSV, I would like to save this into the Excel format, so XLX format, and I will place this file onto the desktop with the name of payment term. Okay, and save. So once the file is saved, thereafter we just rename this to sheet 1, and I just want to delete some rows here. Since sometimes what happens, if there is a certain row where you did certain changes, or if I will write it down something here, then the system, and then I will wash it out. Okay, now the system will consider next 3 rows as a data and give you the error. So in such a case, better to delete those empty rows, so there would not be any confusion to the system. So once it is done, I will save, close, and then I will move on to my screen. Let me close this, and here is the icon on to the right side. I will say, and this is, you just need to create the mapping. Now I just want to create the mapping, so I will say payment term import file, import, save this. Now you need to upload your file. So my file is placed at the desktop, and it is known as payment term. So here is the payment term. Now all the columns you would be able to see here at the left side, while all the columns of the database you would be able to see onto the right side. Thereafter we just need to do the mapping. So I'm at payment term window. To import the Excel which we have prepared, you just need to click on this icon to open the Excel import utility. So let's click on it here, and here you either have the existing mapping. If you do not have the existing mapping, then click here new, and you would be able to give the name of your mapping. So I will use the existing one. So at the moment there is no mapping is available for the payment term. So let's upload the file by clicking on this icon. So our file was payment term. So here is the file. As a result of that, all the columns that are available into the Excel, you would be able to see all those columns here onto the left side, while onto the right side, whichever the table is selected, that table data would be available here at this place. Okay, so once it is done, so let's move on, and we'll do the mapping. So if you can see here, the asterisk sign represents that these columns are mandatory, and there would be a certain mapping or a default value to be set it up. Okay, now all of my records are going to be the active one. So either I will map the active is here, then I will map with this, or I will place a default value. So I would like to place a default value is active. So once I will click on this, so I would be able to see at the level of the default value that active is marked as true. Okay. Now the next one is after delivery. So if it is after delivery, then I would be able to set my after delivery. So in that case, I will map, since the data in this column can differs from the previous record. So that's why we just need to do the mapping, and that is basic crux basically. If all the data that is available within the system and you want to set a certain value, would be able to set a certain default value, in that case you need not to create that column into the Excel. Instead I would set my default value, whichever is marked as default value, you would be able to see that with the blue color. Whichever is marked as green color, you would be able to see with green color. So after delivery is mapped. So what I will do, I will set minimum values as default instead of mapping, since my both the records doesn't require anything. So I will say map discount is 0, discount to 0, default is fixed state is false, gray stays 0. Now name I just need to map with this. Net days I want to map with my net days. Organization is whichever the organization you are logged in, the system will import the data in that particular organization, and I need not to map anything here. Then the payment term ID is the primary key of this particular table, so the Excel import utility handles this automatically, so you need not to do anything here. Now the next one is the search key. I will map with the search key is valid. You would be able to set it as true or false, whatever it would be, but there is a certain logic available. By that, the system marked this as true or false, so I'm not going to set anything. So my mapping is done, everything is available, all the mandatory fields are mapped. Then I would come here and save. So my mapping is saved. Now there might be a possibility you have certain records that having a percentage of, let's say, R20, 30, 40, and you need to define the schedule. So in that case, we just need to set the columns accordingly into the Excel import utility. So once it is done, then I would be able to, without checking on this commit after import, I would be able to see whether all the data is done, whether there would be any errors. So you would be able to see there is no error. You can move on to the error log and you would be able to see the error log. Okay. So presently I do not have any issue. So I will say commit after import and it is done. So once it is done, let me close it out, and thereafter I would see it was 3 in count and now it is 5 in count. Such an easy way to import the data. Now the question is, if I want to import the data in both the tables, then how I can do that. So I just want to convey you in such a case. Move on to your payment term, the sheet which you have prepared. Okay, now let's suppose I have a couple of more that says 25 colon 25 colon 50, and the one is basically 35 colon 35 colon 30. Okay, so this is mine. So you would be able to give the name. If you want to give the name as same as it is, then I would be able to give the name and the description as it is. Now rest of the fields I don't want, so I don't want to enter anything, but yes, I want to import my schedule. So if I want to import my schedule, then I would come here and I just need to enter the schedule columns. So as I have mentioned that you would be able to export it out from the schedule. If there is any schedule exists, you would be able to export it out. Now another important thing is how the payment term is the ID here as a foreign key. So I just want to use this payment term. So my payment term is either I will create a new column, since my identifier is my name. So I would be able to find it out, or I would be able to define the percentage. So I'm not creating this column. Instead, this column is already exist into the Excel import utility. That is my name. So what I will do, I will give my schedule percentages. So I will say schedule net days. So my percentage and net days. Okay. So what I will do, schedule net days, schedule percentage. Now my first two record, so it is somewhere like, since I want to import, so I will create the copies here for these two records. So I'm creating 6 because one parent and multiple childs, right? So in such a case I'm doing this, and for all this here the net days are 0. Okay, now what is my schedule percentage? If I will say, let's say in 25 days 25%, so I would say first as 25, enter 25, then 50, then here we mentioned as 35, 35, then 30. Okay, so these are the three schedules. The last one is not needed, I will remove this. Now my schedule and schedule percentages are, created. Okay, so we'll save our template and we'll try to import this template once again. So if I want to import this template, so move on to your header, open your Excel import utility and click here. Then you would be able to open your payment term. Since this was saved previously, so you would be able to see all the mappings here. Now for the rest of the things I just need to do the mapping is basically this payment schedule. I will mark it as active. Now discount percentage is going to be 0, default value days are 0, default value grace days 0, default value. Then I have the net days, so my net days are the schedule net days. So I will map here. Now you would be able to see here the mapping for the schedule tab. So it is done. Thereafter I have the payment term ID, that is basically the foreign key. So I just want to link it with the name. So it is pretty important that what's basically the parent child relationship and which is going to be the identifier into the system. So based on to the identifier you just need to place the name. Okay, then I do have the percentage, so I will select the percentage here and then valid is, I'm leaving this as empty since at the end class the logic is defined. Now we'll save this. The mapping is saved. We'll try to import and we'll see whether there would be any issue or not issue. So you would be able to see there is no error. Okay, so these errors are coming because the same name is getting imported multiple times. So we'll say commit after import, say okay, and import is done. Thereafter we'll move on to the payment term. Click here, you would be able to see, I think the name was treated as something else, and we'll see the schedule. The schedules are absolutely correct, so you would be able to see. It happens because it was considered as date, that's why, but this is how you would be able to import it into the VA system. So since I have entered my name as 25, 25, 30, it was considered somehow as date, it is marked as custom as well. Normally it needs to keep in journal. So what we'll do, we'll make the change here once again and we'll try to import it once again. Okay, so I will make it journal. So it is 25, 25, then I said 50. So we'll import it in this way, 35 colon 35 colon 30. So this one. We have changed to journal, right? I will say text. I will say text. I will say text. Okay, so it is 25 colon 25 colon 50. So I will take this 35 colon 35 colon 30. Take this. I'll try to re-import the same thing again. Okay. Save the Excel, close. Now for the, well, these two are not correct. So what we'll do, we'll delete it. Say okay. Import it once again. So I will import. Say okay. Now at the desktop we do have the payment term. And I will say commit after import. So it is done. We'll move on here and we'll see now. So you would be able to see it is coming completely correctly. So in this way, you would be able to import the data. Now, the one of the important thing is you can break the Excel into two sheets. The first stage is basically the payment term. The next sheet is going to be the schedule. So that is how you would be able to import the data into the VA system. And it is one of the wonderful utility by which you can reduce your work, drastically when it comes to enter multiple masters in one shot. So that is all about the Excel import utility into the VA system. If you like this video, then subscribe our channel and share this video with all other friends. Into the upcoming session, we are going to discuss about some new topics. Till then, bye bye. Ciao.